Well, hello there, and welcome to a Dyrus Analyst VOD review. This is KT Rolster versus KOO Tigers. The reason why I chose this game is because Korea is the best region, and this was the closest series out of all four games, which was 3-1. And for the other two games were 3-0, and I don't think I should review games that were just won game by game. So starting with this one, we're going to talk a little bit about the pick and ban phase. In this pick and ban phase, you'll see that GP, Lulu, and Mort are banned. These are unbelievably broken champs in the hands of good teams, and they banned them because they didn't want to give them any of them. Unfortunately, purple side is heavily handicapped in terms of pick ban because they are forced to ban 3 or trade OPs, while blue side they can just ban whatever they want. Kennen, Elise, Lee. I think more specifically Elise Lee is the benefit to KT's ban phase, since Elise Lee is one of Hojin's best champs, or I guess Lee. And going into this pick ban, you'll see that KT blinded Darius, while KOO picked Tom Kench and Rek'Sai into Darius. I feel like this is a mistake because picking melees like that are really bad against Darius will really negatively affect your team. When you play against Darius, you want to play more kite champions or champions that have displacement or high mobility. So if I was Q, I think I would have preferred Gragas here, just because you can ult Darius away, or even any other damage jungler. Like, tank junglers are really bad against Darius in general, and Tahm Kench, while being an extremely OP broken champion, you have to really survive the Darius bleeds. But I guess Tahm Kench is the exception. I just felt like Rek'Sai would have. I felt like Gragas was better here, but maybe for Hojin, Rek'Sai was his more comfortable champion, and they believe Rek'Sai to be better than Gragas. But against Darius, I think Gragas is the better pick. And so what ends up happening here is that Darius as a champion needs other people to go in. So that's why KT Rolster picked Gragas, and then Thresh is just like whatever. They just blind pick Thresh because Thresh is the blind pickable champion. And Gragas into Tahm Kench and Rek'Sai, there isn't any merit other than hiding picks. So right now, KT's hiding picks with Gragas Thresh. After seeing Gragas Thresh, KOO decides to finally counterpick for a top lane, which is Fiora. It isn't really like a counter pick, but it's a strong pick that if it gets ahead, she could just straight out win in split pushing. And then KOO has to blind pick their AD. And so for AD, they blind picked Ashe. After seeing Fiora and Ashe, KT Rolster decides to pick Kalista and LeBlanc. The reason why they picked LeBlanc is to have a blind pick, and you'll notice that there's a lot of blind pickable champions here. Darius, Thresh, and LeBlanc were the blind picks, and Kalista was more of a pick into Ashe that's just really strong in lane and just works well with Thresh, while Tahm Kench works really well with Ashe since she's immobile. When she gets caught, Tahm Kench can just eat Ashe and just run away, or eat Veigar and run away. You'll see that they last picked Veigar into LeBlanc. I don't know how I feel about it because I don't know the matchup, but what I do know is Veigar outscales LeBlanc, but LeBlanc has more early mid-game potential. So after seeing these picks, it's quite obvious that KT Rolster is going for the early mid-game, and early mid-game team fights and looking to snowball the game before KOO Tigers can outscale, and KOO Tigers looking to get a lot of picks and stall out the game and just win by having a slight gold lead. So with that, we can just get into the game. In this level 1, both teams kind of just spread it out, but when KT decided to invade a little bit, KOO was able to get more information by warding Grump and Blue, and we're going to pause here to talk about the jungle paths. So the jungle paths both sides can take is Rek'Sai can do golems, red, Wraiths, and either gank top or mid. Gragas he'll be farming towards bot side and he'll be able to gank mid or bot. Darius will have the lane advantage because he'll double jungle and he'll have the option to walk into lane, which means he'll have TP advantage, while Fiora had the solo and TP to lane. This is very beneficial for Darius. This is something that Marn also does and that a lot of top laners adopted at Worlds. It gives you a full HP Darius with a potion that can trade a little bit, and then when he backs off and TP's back in, he can possibly either have the potion advantage or he can have like a longsword or Doran's or a ruby crystal, depending on how much gold he has. Now it has hit laning phase where Darius has walked into lane while Fiora TP'd, so Darius will have the advantage in that sense. But the thing is, since Rek'Sai sold the top jungle, he has an option to help Fiora while Gragas cannot help Darius. This means that Darius is going to have to somehow outplay 1 versus 2 or try and pull the lane back, which is not that great for Darius. While Gragas has the option of ganking mid or bot, which is not bad since ganking for Thresh lane is pretty easy, and ganking for LeBlanc lane is pretty good too. Right here you see that Holjin's looking for the behind the lane gank. This is really annoying for Rek'Sai. Earlier I was talking about how Rek'Sai's gank side lanes and Gragas is gank mid more. Right here is a perfect example of it, although he's not getting anything here. And this means that Someday needs his jungler there, which is why Score is following Holjin here. That way Someday can look for 1 versus 1. But Someday's super low here, which means he shouldn't look to fight here. And Speb messes up here by getting greedy instead of backing off. Although there's a chance that Smeb might not have been able to back off. I feel like Smeb outplayed Someday here, but at the same time, it was also because he had the jungle pressure, while Someday was calling for help immediately as soon as possible to get advantages back in his lane. So at this point, Someday has the ruby crystal advantage, and if Gragas decides to gank top more, then, or if Gragas decides to give Darius support, he'll be able to abuse Fiora from after this point on because he has a gold advantage. Damn, this is pretty sad to watch as a top laner. Dying like that for being greedy. So this is what I was talking about. Rek'Sai's immediately running top because if he knows he doesn't, Someday's just going to destroy Smeb in 1 versus 1 because he has the item advantage and he's Darius, so he has the early game advantage. Right now the lane's freezing, so Someday doesn't have to play aggressive. Like, he can just farm it up and back off. But you see here he's looking to be aggressive. And it's not that bad for him, but I feel like he would get more out of it because Rek'Sai wouldn't get any farm. I think Someday had a real chance to carry the game here. And instead he goes even while Gragas gets some more farm. At the same time, I feel like Gragas should have also looked to come top because Fiora could have completely been out of the game here. These are the kind of plays that make or break the game. And instead of Someday hardcore snowballing, he was equalized since Holjin ganked top. If Someday did not die top, Gragas would have been way far ahead of Rek'Sai, and KT would be in a better position than they are now, but they're still in a favorable position. So at this point of the game, as for laning phase goes, KT blinded top and mid, and they're winning both lanes because they have picked priority blind pick champions, while KT is losing the bot lane when they picked Kalista into Ashe and Thresh into Tahm Kench. They had the counter pick for both lanes, and I know I said Thresh blind picked earlier, but I forgot Tahm Kench was a potential support. What this means is that Ashe and Tahm Kench are playing the lane better, or maybe it's better, but they outscale Kalista and Thresh, which means KT's on a time limit for this game, and it's going to be coming down to probably team fights and getting picks, or seeing who gets caught out. LeBlanc is winning mid by around 10 to 12 CS. This is correct because you're supposed to win mid with LeBlanc since Veigar outscales you, and it'll depend on how Nagne snowballs the game to help his team win. So, because the Ashe Tom Kench lane is winning so hard, they were able to push up and get a buy timer, and instead of going back bottom, they're looking for a gank on Smeb, or a gank for Smeb against Someday, because Someday can really abuse Smeb here. And with Tom Kench, it's like, this is just disgusting. There's this four-man play. There's not really much you can do about this. Smeb's not going to die because of Tom Kench, and they just get a free kill, basically. They get a 1 for 0 and a top tower, while KT's bot lane just gets bot tower and a little bit more farm since they're in two different lanes, while KOO is 5-manning one. This was beneficial for KOO because Smeb gets a kill and Someday's early game is equalized, and they're just planning to shut down the Dyrus, which is really good for KOO. So what this does is it puts KOO in the driver's seat for mid game, but even then, KT still has a stronger team fight and stronger early game, so we'll just have to see how that plays out. Right here you see that KT got bot tower and Gorilla is caught out. This doesn't really mean it's bad for them because Gorilla is really tanky because Tom Kench is really broken, and it's just going to depend on team play right here. Right here you see Greg is coming in from the flank, which means KT needs to run. Someday is stuck between 5 of the enemy team, so they're just going to straight up lose here because of numbers advantage. The main thing here to note is that KT wasn't grouped up with Gragas right away, while KOO was able to get there first. This could have been because of globals or, timing, but the reason why they won this is because they were able to group up first and just get all their CCs off and insta-kill some targets. Now they get Dragon for that, which puts them in a pretty comfortable driving seat. They have a slight gold lead, they have Dragon, and they have the outscaling comp. What KT is going to want to do is fight the next Dragon, and until then they want to just farm up as best they can and then try and fight the Dragon as best they can, because team fights are just what's going to win the game. So at this point of the game, both teams are kind of just maximizing farm. KT wants to play for top and mid tower, but I think they're valuing Dragon and team fights more, so they're not playing for it, while KOO is playing for mid tower since they already got bot and top tower. What KOO wants to do is also control Dragon, but make sure that they don't get caught before doing anything there. So KOO's going to make sure to get some wards as Dragon spawns and try to get like a pretty good team fight. Unfortunately, that pink ward didn't see that ward, which is kind of big. That means Someday can TP behind them when KOO decides to start Dragon. Or if KT decides to start Dragon, then Smeb doesn't really have that many flank wards to TP on. Because KOO is grouped up here, they are using their Dragon Vision to rotate onto mid and pressure and force KT to move towards mid. And they're going to be playing the game of trying to catch and poke with certain spells, so like Ashe Arrow, Tom Kenchel, Rek'Sai follow up, Veigar follow up. And right now KT's on a timer because Someday needs to go and clear top lane, but instead he's holding mid here, so that means they have the priority for Dragon since there's 5 people here. Now that Sunday's going top, KOO can start to look to go back in, and they also have wards to walk in if they want to, so right now it's pretty even. It just depends on whose Dragon play is better. Right now they're still maximizing farm, and KOO is on the timer because Dyrus walked top while Smeb's already here. It looks like their Gorilla's getting caught out to bait this, and then Someday TP's in and insta-dies. Wow. That was pretty unfortunate because Someday didn't know that Veigar was also TPing, but even if he wasn't, he would have gotten insta-killed there. this is really bad for KT because now they're like 2k behind and they're going to lose this dragon when KT's the ones that wanted to really fight this. So they're going to really have to set up for the next dragon the best they can, while trying to defend their mid turret and also trying to get the enemy top and mid. So I skipped forward a lot here because all they basically been doing for the last 2 to 3 minutes is farm, and they're just trying to maximize farm and get ready for the next dragon fight. And this is around the time when the next dragon comes up. This is pretty risky by KOO because they don't have a setup for Fiora and they're not really playing around Fiora, and this is a 50-50. Gragas gets a dragon, and they look for an engage on Arrow, but Arrow has cleanse, so yeah, there's a lot of things happening. So I'm gonna pause right here and move back. I'm gonna explain what happens here. So score gets the dragon, and that's pretty bad for KOO because they're in the driving seat. They're up 2k and they have the outscaling comp, and Fiora's fed as hell. But they're all clumped up here. Smeb doesn't have the Fiora flank, and KT has a more like, circle around them. So we're gonna watch this slower. They arrow, and he cleanses away. Rek'Sai jumps in, but he doesn't get the follow-up, which means this is bad for KOO, and they're all clumped up here, while KT is just like, circling, hitting Hojin for free as a target, and none of these members can do damage. Dyrus misses the hook, but right here, Gragas gets a 5-man ult. Right, I'm assuming this is a 5-man, and then Peekaboo is going to get a hook on someone. So let's see what happens. So pausing at this point, KOO, one of their main damage dealers, is just going to die here. And I don't even know how he was able to knock KOO in here. I guess it was because of the hook. And the rest of them aren't doing any damage, and Smeb wasn't able to do anything even though he's the most fed. And it looks like KT's probably going to win this fight, because Veigar insta dies, or he's going to die anyways. Yeah. And yeah, they just win this fight, honestly. Like, there's not really much they can do. They used arrow on the cleanse target, and Rek'Sai jumped in for no reason. KOO got caught by the hook in Gragas ult. That was a really, really good. That was like a perfect Gragas ult. If you wanted a Gragas ult in the game, that's the exact perfect thing. You hit back one member and knock back the other 4. So that was really, really good Gragas ult by Score, and really, really good hook by Peekaboo. Yeah, they right here. What I think KOO should have done here was have Fiora flank, or have Fiora there from the start, because I think KOO rushed Dragon and made it 50-50 instead of slowly choking them out. With Ash Arrow, they could have easily looked for a fight or a choke out, or they could have easily just, backed off after the 50-50. But instead, since Arrow got the or KT got the dragon, they felt like they needed a fight, and they just clumped up and walked forward and played into KT's hands. So at this point in the game, even though KT has the less scaling comp, KT is now in the driver's seat. And right here, Someday gets caught by globals. It's kind of hard to survive against that, but he honestly should have just been grouped here. What this means is KT is not going to get as much with their Baron. Instead of just getting towers, they're just going to get farm and maybe some tower damage. KT needs to be really careful not to get caught out here, but I think since they used ult on Smeb, they're probably fine. They also have Cleanse and Face of the Mountain and some Gragas disengage, so they're just going to probably farm out for the next couple of minutes while waiting for Someday. So after Baron runs out, KOO decides to siege middle. This is really scary because Someday can just TP behind them, and they're really immobile. What they want to do is be getting picks, not sieging. And I'm going to go ahead and pause here and talk about the positioning. So even though Smeb's super fed, the rest of their team is so immobile, and this is such a bad spot for them that once again, KOO is grouped up like a ball, while KT is like someday had the flank because they pushed down middle and they didn't respect the TP flank, while Smeb should be split pushing and looking for solo kills or tower kills. A lot of the reason why Smeb died a lot this game is because they played for side lanes, and that's what they did. But the mistake they made here was KOO walked down middle instead of getting vision for their Fiora, clearing vision, which is what Korean teams usually do. They get vision, choke out teams, but against KT they weren't able to do that. I think they just forgot how to play this game or play their team comp this game. Smeb destroys Dyrus one-on-one. I can vouch for that. Like at this point in the game, Smeb will win. He has kills to back it up. Smeb has like 2 MR items, and so does, Someday has 2 MR items, and so does Smeb, but Fiora at this point of the game at level 16, he just destroys everyone. So with that, KOO should have split pushed and played off Tahm Kench and Rek'Sai globals, but instead they pushed mid, and now they're in an unfavorable position, and then we're going to see what happens here. So Smeb's trying to trade, and Hojin's trying to follow up on Smeb, which means it isolates their back line, and Arrow is hitting the front line while Prey can't hit anyone. Prey's getting zoned by LeBlanc and Thresh, and so is Kuro. They can't walk in to do damage to score, and Smeb's just fighting one-on-one. Like, Smeb's super strong, so it's not that bad, but Kalista's getting free autos on these two, and they can't go in on Kalista because, you know, these two are zoning everyone, and then they can't run away because Someday's zoning the back line. And this is really unfavorable for KOO, even though they have the better scaling comp. So Gragas wastes his ult because he's going to die soon. And Smeb's still walking around. Like, Smeb could literally walk up and just destroy Prey, but Gorilla's trying to zone him out. But that's not going to be that effective. So now that Smeb's low and has to walk away, he has nowhere to go because Someday's right there. Like, he just straight up died to the Kalista because they're zoned out by LeBlanc and Thresh and Darius, and they were just kind of stuck here. Like, Smeb should have not went forward in this team fight and should have just like looked for the split push more because that's their win condition. At this point, honestly, KT is probably going to win this fight because Someday had the flank and they just had better positioning. These were the 2 decisive team fights this game. It looks like KT is just going to win here because they just completely destroyed KOO in team fights for this game. Even though KOO had the better setup laning phase for top and bottom, they didn't play off of top and bottom. They played off of running mid or running the dragon and fighting them head on. What KOO should have done this game was split push with Fiora and play off of Rek'Sai and Tahm Kench globals. If they did that, the game would have been a way different game. But at the same time, KT was an early mid team fighting comp, and they played the team fighting comp very well. They always circled around. They always, you know, got the right flanks. They just played it properly, while KOO did not play it to the best of their comp. So that's it for this game. I think it's probably going to end here. So that's my review for KT versus KOO. Hopefully I get a better format next time for the next games so I can show you guys better of what happened. If you have any questions, please feel free to leave it down below in the comments, and thanks for watching.